Hi everyone. This lesson is for lesson 12. We are learning in a 3-day time span about positive and negative numbers this week. This is day 1. This is really a nuts and bolts lesson quickly to overview what you missed in class. Please refer to the plan for the specifics that I outlined about the diagnostic that's starting tomorrow. I will be talking about that in class. It is an important assessment to measure your growth and to put your MyPath lessons on the correct path, no pun intended. And so that is something that you did miss if you missed my class in person. And again, the plan outlines everything that I wanted you to know about that. So I'm going to jump into the new material that we are covering today. And there's a lot of information that was shared in class today. So I'm going to be walking through that with our instruction book, pages 112 to 113. So we're going to be talking about what are positive and negative numbers today. And positive numbers are numbers that are greater than 0. They are located to the right of 0 on a number line, where negative numbers are often referred to as, or maybe used the color of red, so I'm going to switch my colors here. They are less than 0, and they're located to the left of 0 on a number line. And the number 0 itself is neither positive nor negative, so that's important. It does not have any sign attached to it. So in that same vein, sometimes we refer to positive and negative numbers as signed numbers, meaning they have a sign, either negative or positive, attached to them. So sometimes you'll see that symbol, that negative symbol, right before a number like -1, or you could see it before the number if it is positive. However, sometimes you'll notice on this number line, the numbers do not have a positive sign, and that is okay. But it is not okay to have a negative number without that indication that it is negative. So negative numbers are always written with that negative sign. Positive numbers can be written with that plus sign, but it can also be without it. So the important thing to note here before moving on is that when you're solving problems this week with positive and negative numbers, it's important to think about how far from 0 the number is and in what direction. So positive numbers are always going to be in the right, going towards the right, in that right direction, and negative numbers are always going to be going in that left direction. So for instance, the number -3 is 3 spaces to the left of the 0 versus the +3 is 3 places to the right of that 0. So that's going to be important to think about moving forward. Now we're actually going to see about some situations where negative numbers exist. So temperatures is a very common topic that deals with positive and negative numbers. So temperatures that are above 0, here's our 0, are positive. Temperatures below 0 are negative. So let's look at this thermometer, and we're going to circle the numbers that are negative. So that means the -10, -20, -30, -40, and then on the Fahrenheit side, -20 and -40. So you'll notice that 20 is 20 degrees above 0. So that's here. And we have 10, 20 degrees above the 0. And -20 is 20 degrees below the 0, okay? And we can think about that on either side, Celsius or Fahrenheit. Here's the 0 on the Fahrenheit side, here's 20, and then here's -20. And we can see the same thing for -30 and +30. Just going to get rid of some of my markers here so we can see -30 and +30. So regardless of which side you look at, it's going to be the same distance above +30 as it is below. So you can see my 3 hops above the 0 and my 3 hops below the 0. In this case, my hops are jumps of 10 on the right, and then my hops here are going to have to be a little bit different. So we have 10, 20, 30. Again, my marker is kind of fuzzy with my yellow. So 10, 20, 30. Oh, and then 10, 20, 30 halfway through. There we go. That's a little bit more realistic. So temperature is only one idea as far as a real life application for this idea of negative and positive numbers. We are dealing with some cold temperatures now, so this is very timely. And so cold, think negative, or in our Fahrenheit world, below 32 would be freezing, that kind of thing. So I want us to think about some real world situations where we might see negative numbers besides temperatures, and we are going to also use our whiteboards to try to build a number line. So when you're drawing a number line on your own, we want to start off with that arrow in both directions. So number lines are just a piece of a huge number line that continues forever and ever in both directions. So we're just taking a segment of it. We could choose to take a positive segment of our number line and just have positive numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we could also continue that on in both directions. And you'll notice when you make a number line, you should have arrows at both ends, and you should have these little tick marks indicating where the numbers go. So sometimes you're going to want to put your 0 on your number line and then build from the right and the left according to our positive numbers like 1 and 2. And notice that the 1 and the 2 go towards the right, they get bigger digit-wise. And then my 1 and my 2 negative start going bigger digit-wise. Okay, so here's the 1, and then here's the 2. Sometimes people want to try to build a number line and they put the numbers in the same going up order. So this is actually not correct. You have to start and think about that number line being folded in half, and my 1s are going to be, right next to the 0. Okay, so you have to think about the 0 being that middle point, and then hopping 1, 2, 3, if we continue to the left, versus what we're normally looking at with a number line with our numbers getting bigger if they're positive. And if we're looking at this negative side, these numbers digit-wise, 2 is a bigger digit than 1, but because of this symbol, the negative symbol, as we go farther and farther to the left, our numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so we are 2 places away from 0 towards the left, which means it's a -2, versus 2 places to the right of the 0, which means it's a positive. So the direction and where that 0 is important. Sometimes it might be good, though, to make a number line where the 0 isn't even there. So sometimes, and I'm actually going to start over, sometimes we want to have a number line that just has a piece that's negative. So if that's the case, our tick marks are still there, but we might pick up at -5. And then the next number would be -6, -7, -8, and -9. So this segment of our number line has the 0 somewhere over here. It's not on the number line, but it continues. And so we want to make sure that anytime we're writing our negative numbers, that they are getting smaller as they go to the left. -9 is farther away from 0 than -5 is. And therefore, sometimes building the number line is a little bit tricky at first. So that's what I wanted to do with your whiteboards before moving forward. Another thing that we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, are other real world situations besides temperature, which is what we discussed on that actual instruction book page. Other topics could be dealing with money. Sometimes you owe money, and that could be a negative situation. Playing games, sometimes you lose points when you're playing different kinds of games, whether they're card games or actual sports games. Sometimes you might see negative numbers when we're dealing with elevation. So how far above sea level are you? That could be another situation besides temperature. Owing money, elevation, and losing points or dealing with games. Now, golf is one of those things where there are some games where it's good to be close to zero, but some other games you could get into negative situations when you're losing points. So there are going to be key words to kind of fall in line with this idea of topics. Some key words like below will definitely clue you in that we're dealing with a negative situation versus the word above means the positive situation. Losing points would be another key word, that it's negative versus gaining. If you gain points, that's a positive thing. If you lose points, that's a negative thing. For the money situation, owing money is that negative keyword versus which is saving, which would be the opposite. Also, if you're spending money, you're losing money. So losing money, spending money, losing points, gaining. So I'm going to put spending could be another negative keyword. And above and below. And we're going to be talking about other situations where you might see a keyword and have it be an indication of whether it's positive or negative as well. So remember when I was talking about the importance of understanding where numbers are in respect to zero? We're also going to be talking about how numbers are the same and different, whether they are positive or negative. So positive 3 and negative 3 are different because one is positive and one is negative. So I have a quick number line here where I only have 3 tick marks. So I'm just comparing the 0 and then positive 3 and negative 3. So one big difference is that one is positive and one is negative. But a similarity, and if you were listening carefully, is that they are both the same distance away from 0, but one is to the right and one is to the left. So that would be a similarity. They're both 3 places away from that 0, but a difference is that one is positive and one is negative. The last thing that we're going to be learning today is that when they're the same distance from 0, like we were just talking about with positive and negative 3, but one is to the right and one is to the left, they're in opposite directions. So that's going to be a special vocabulary word called opposite numbers. So negative 3 and positive 3 are also called opposites and opposite numbers. So every whole number, every fraction, and every decimal has an opposite. So the opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. Both numbers are the same distance from 0. So to plot a number on on a number line. We're actually going to put the dot right on the number line. We're not going to hover it over here. We're not going to put it on the actual number. So you'll notice this example has that dot right in the intersection between that tick mark and the actual line. And then -4 is 4 spots to the left of 0, and that red dot is right there, versus the blue dot is 4 spaces to the right of 0. So think of that 0 as that fold. If you were to fold this number line up in half so that the fold goes through the 0, the numbers 4 and -4 would line up perfectly, and they are opposites. So our last vocabulary word is really an important one. We're going to be referring to whole numbers, and their opposites are called integers. It's a special vocabulary word that's just talking about the whole numbers. So 1.5 is not a whole number, so that is not an integer, but it does have an opposite, 1.5. Its opposite is -1.5. We'll deal more with that tomorrow. But all integers are any whole number, positive or negative. You can see the list here, including 0. 0 is considered an integer, even though it is neither positive nor negative. So that's all the new information that I am going through. We are going to have a quick reflection question that I typed out into Google Classroom, and that is a similar to what we talked about with positive and -3. You have to think about -10 and +10, and how are they the same, and what is different about these numbers. Just a quick note about your practice and problem solving page for today. I did mention this in the morning meeting, but your practice and problem solving page deals with a prerequisite skill, meaning this was something in your past that has to do with skills that are going to be needed for your background to help you be successful. So if you look, we are dealing with ordered pairs in your practice and problem solving today, and that was not something that we talked about in class. So it's going to be important for you to read this example, because it does give you a nice review on what an ordered pair is. The first number of the ordered pair deals with the x, and the second number deals with where it falls on the y-axis. So the ordered pair for point E is 1, 4. So you go over 1 and then up 4 to get to this number E, or this letter E. And why are we dealing with this prerequisite? Because it has to do with number lines. And I know these numbers don't deal with negative numbers. These pages don't deal with any negative numbers, but don't worry, that's coming. And so hopefully just take your time. There are a few more let me go to the instructions. Whoops. There are a few more of the priority questions assigned, just because there is no My Path today. So you are going to try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. They are quicker, so hopefully it's about the same amount of time for you to spend on these priority questions. And -10 and +10, that's the question right in your classwork tab for your exit ticket. So that's our class in a nutshell, and hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.